You've been lied to about purpose, lied to by well-meaning teachers, glossy self-help books, smiling influencers, and even your own desperate need to believe that life is supposed to make sense. You were told that if you search hard enough, dig deep enough, believe passionately enough, you'll uncover some glowing truth about why you're here. A calling, a higher mission, a spark from the divine. That once you find it, everything will align. That your pain will have meaning, your work will have weight, and your suffering will make sense. But the truth is brutal. The search for purpose isn't a golden path. It's a maze soaked in fog and silence. Most people wander it for decades, growing more desperate, more disillusioned, more convinced that they are broken, when in fact, they're simply colliding with the real nature of existence. This isn't an essay for the faint-hearted. If you came here for comfort, turn back. But if you've ever stared at the ceiling at 3 a.m. and wondered, not just what you're supposed to do, but whether there's anything at all to be done, then stay. You've been trained to believe that purpose is something out there, a hidden treasure you can uncover if you just ask the right questions or become good enough to receive the answer. But what if there's no treasure? What if the map was drawn by people as lost as you are? Forget everything you've been told. This isn't about passion. This isn't about alignment or destiny or cosmic contracts. This is about war. The psychological, spiritual, and existential war every conscious being faces when it realizes that the universe does not explain itself. Schopenhauer didn't sugarcoat this. He didn't tell us to find our bliss. He didn't claim that everything happens for a reason. He looked at the raw machinery of life and said, "This is what it is, a ceaseless striving, a blind will to live, and a pattern of suffering so baked into reality that meaning itself becomes suspect." In this essay, we're going to tear down the polite illusion of purpose and face the brutal mechanics of existence through the lens of Schopenhauer, a philosopher who dared to name the pain most are too afraid to articulate. And from that clarity, from that collapse of comforting stories, we'll extract something stronger than hope, something resilient, strategic, grounded, not a purpose handed down from heaven, but a position you can choose, fight for, and hold. You won't leave this essay with a smile, but if you stay, you'll leave with something far more dangerous: clarity. And clarity in a meaningless world is power. Think of life not as a story, but as a machine. Not a novel written with intention and symbolism, but a churning, mindless engine grinding endlessly forward, chewing through time, bodies, and dreams without pause or preference. This is the machine Schopenhauer saw when he looked at the world. And you're a part of it. Not a chosen hero, not a unique soul sent here with a mission, a cog, a function, a flicker of awareness trapped in a body driven by needs it did not choose. This isn't nihilism. This is honesty. Schopenhauer's central idea, what he called the will, is the dark engine of existence. It is not the will of reason or choice. It is the blind, aimless, relentless force that animates all life. It pushes the bird to migrate, the addict to relapse, the child to scream for attention, and the adult to keep grinding through miserable routines without knowing why. It is hunger without a goal, desire without end, and it lives inside you. Most people believe suffering is a sign that something has gone wrong. But for Schopenhauer, suffering is the default state, the natural condition of beings caught in the grip of will. We do not suffer because we lack purpose. We suffer because we are built to crave endlessly and to be haunted by the illusion that satisfaction is just one step away. The search for purpose, in this view, is not a sacred quest. It's a side effect of consciousness waking up inside the machine and desperately trying to believe there's more to it than endless motion. You may have felt this yourself, that deep, crawling dread that arrives not during a crisis, but in the stillness after. When the goal is reached, the task completed, the applause fades, and something inside you whispers, "Now what?" That's not failure. That's the will in action. The moment you reach one desire, it dissolves and is replaced by another. This is the wheel. This is the trap. And the modern obsession with finding purpose is just another trick of the will, another carrot on the stick that keeps the animal running, never questioning the path. But here's the brutal truth. There is no final carrot, no ultimate purpose waiting to reward you for suffering correctly. There is only movement, pain, boredom, and brief moments of distraction or illusion. Schopenhauer didn't tell us this to depress us. He told us because it's the only way to see clearly, to stop wasting energy chasing phantoms and start confronting reality on its own brutal terms. Modern culture sells us a soft lie, that life is a story and you're the protagonist, that if you dig deep enough, you'll find your why, and that your pain will be justified by the discovery. But what if there is no why? What if the story never existed, and all you have is the raw machinery of life and your place inside it? What if the only freedom you have is how you respond? Schopenhauer believed that most people are enslaved without knowing it, not by political systems or external forces, but by the very structure of desire inside them. The will doesn't care about your happiness. It only wants continuation, repetition, more. And once you satisfy one urge, it replaces it with another. This is the cycle. This is why peace feels alien, why rest breeds anxiety, why every victory turns sour with time. Now imagine this, a machine that feeds itself by breaking you down slowly, that gives you just enough pleasure to keep moving forward, but never enough to be free. That whispers, keep going, you're almost there, even when there is no there. That is the will. When people talk about purpose, they are often unknowingly asking, how do I make peace with this machine? But you don't make peace with it. You learn to see it. You learn to fight it, not with noise and panic, but with detachment and clarity. Schopenhauer offered one of the most psychologically brutal insights in all of philosophy. True liberation doesn't come from fulfilling your desires. It comes from silencing them, from denying the will, from stepping off the treadmill rather than outrunning it. But this denial isn't passive. It's strategic. You don't become free by becoming indifferent. You become free by choosing what to care about and what to stop feeding. Most people feed the machine with constant stimulation, scrolling, planning, comparing, striving. They believe this motion is meaning, but it's just noise. To step back is to reclaim your sight. In this metaphor, you're not the operator of the machine. You're the conscious gear that suddenly becomes aware of the rotation, and you have a choice. Keep turning blindly in search of some greater design, or begin to operate with surgical restraint. That's where Schopenhauer departs from self-help optimism and enters the domain of brutal clarity. He doesn't offer a vision of happiness. He offers a strategy for endurance, for self-discipline, for living with pain without becoming its slave. In a world where the machine cannot be destroyed, he teaches you how to move with it, without being consumed by it. And this is where modern ideals fail. Our culture tells you to follow your bliss, but Schopenhauer says, examine it, dissect it, ask where it leads and whether the pursuit is worth the inevitable suffering it brings. The modern idea of purpose is often just a romantic name for enslavement. It tells you to find meaning, but never asks who benefits from your endless seeking. The will doesn't want you to be still. Stillness is dangerous. In stillness, you might see the machinery. You might recognize the illusion. You might become sovereign. So here is the shift. You stop seeking purpose as a reward and start approaching life as a battlefield. You stop expecting meaning to be handed down and start wielding choice as a weapon. You step out of the dream and into the discipline of awareness. This is the mindset we will now bring into the next phase, application. You don't need to read Schopenhauer to know something's wrong. You feel it every morning when you wake up and check your phone before your feet hit the floor. You feel it in the silence between tasks, the twitch, the search, the need to scroll, to consume, to plan something, anything. You feel it when you're alone and the room goes quiet, and suddenly your own mind becomes unbearable. This is the will operating at full capacity, not as some mystical force, but as your own nervous system in a constant state of agitation, craving, and escape. Most people don't realize they are prisoners because the walls are made of habits. They mistake motion for progress. The gym membership, the productivity apps, the endless to-do lists, all feel like noble pursuits. But when you zoom out, the pattern becomes visible. You are not moving toward peace. You are running from stillness. You call it ambition. You call it drive. But what if it's just the machine doing what it's programmed to do, seeking friction, reacting to lack, feeding itself through you? Even in relationships, the illusion of purpose plays out. You seek a partner not just for connection, but to validate that your life has meaning. You want someone to say, "You matter," not because that's true in any cosmic sense, but because you don't believe it without external confirmation. You might even spiritualize your suffering, telling yourself it's part of the plan. But deep down, you're terrified that there is no plan, just you inside a system that does not care. The will manifests not as evil, but as endlessness. And the first step to reclaiming power is seeing how that endlessness quietly devours your days. Most conventional approaches to finding purpose fail not because they lack sincerity, but because they're built on a false premise, that life is supposed to make sense. You're told to journal more, meditate more, volunteer, travel, change careers, do shadow work, follow your passion, or heal your inner child, as if these actions will unlock some golden insight that rewrites your suffering into a meaningful narrative. And maybe, for a moment, it feels like they do. But soon after, the same emptiness returns. Because these tools aren't wrong, they're just misused. They're applied like keys searching for a lock that doesn't exist. They assume purpose is something pre-installed, waiting to be revealed. Schopenhauer would call this a comforting delusion, one that feeds the will rather than interrupts it. The real reason these strategies fail is because they don't question the premise. They accept the will's demand for motion, achievement, and identity as sacred. They say, "You are meant for something great," without asking, "Why must you be meant for anything at all?" Instead of facing the abyss honestly, modern solutions dress it up in spiritual language and productivity hacks. But the abyss remains, and deep down, you know it. Most self-help is escapism in disguise. It sells you movement when what you need is stillness. It tells you to climb when the truth might be to stop. That's why you feel exhausted, not because you're doing it wrong, but because you're doing too much for the wrong reason. You're trying to solve a metaphysical hunger with psychological band-aids. And until you break that cycle, until you stop running, the machine owns you. If you accept Schopenhauer's premise that the will is blind, endless, and indifferent, then the only rational response is not surrender, but strategy. Not to escape the pain, but to face it cleanly. To stop searching for a grand, external purpose, and instead forge a position, a posture, from which you operate with clarity, restraint, and deliberate rebellion. This is how to start. Step 1. Stop lying to yourself. Drop the language of destiny. Stop saying things like, "I just need to figure out my passion," or "Maybe I haven't found my purpose yet." These phrases are not harmless. They're loops designed by the will to keep you running. Replace them with the truth. There may be no purpose, and I choose to act anyway. Step 2. Eliminate false motion. Audit your habits. How much of your time is spent chasing stimulation that promises meaning but delivers numbness? Begin to cut, ruthlessly, social media, superficial goals, hollow conversations, anything that feeds the cycle without serving a principle. Step 3. Embrace boredom, sit in silence, let the discomfort come. This is not meditation for peace. This is exposure therapy for the rawness of being. Let the questions flood in. Let the ache speak. Don't run. Step 4. Create a daily discipline, not for productivity, but for sovereignty. Pick a small, difficult task, something that has no glory, no applause. Do it daily, not to get somewhere, but to prove that you are not ruled by impulse, that you can act without needing reward. This is how you weaken the will's grip, by choosing what it cannot control, your posture. In the Renaissance, Machiavelli introduced two brutal concepts: virtù, the force of personal will, character, and courage, and fortuna, the chaotic, indifferent force of chance and external events. He said the wise must master virtù to resist the tides of fortuna. Schopenhauer, in his own way, agreed, but pushed the battlefield even deeper. The real storm isn't just outside you, it's also inside. So now you face a double war. First, the internal will, the blind drive to crave, consume, react, fear. It wants motion, distraction, attachment. It thrives on you chasing purpose because it knows you'll never catch it. Second, fortuna, the world itself, unpredictable, uncaring, a spinning wheel that places the diligent in despair and the foolish in thrones. Most people collapse because they try to negotiate with both. They want to feel peace without resisting desire. They want the world to reward their efforts just because they tried. But life isn't built on fairness. It's built on force. And the only force you control is your virtù, the posture you hold in the storm. This is why clarity matters more than hope. Hope makes you dependent on fortuna. Clarity gives you direction regardless of chaos. You act not because the outcome is promised, but because the act itself defines you. In a meaningless world, discipline becomes defiance. Stillness becomes resistance. You're not here to master the universe. You're here to face it with unshakable form and say, "You will not shape me." And when fortuna strikes, as it always will, you don't crumble, because you've already learned. The real battlefield is within. When you stop seeking purpose as a gift and start treating life as a battleground, everything changes. But awareness isn't enough. Discipline isn't enough. You need strategy, one that works in the long silence between battles, one that survives disappointment, isolation, and futility. Here are the weapons. 1. Ritual over emotion. Build actions that don't depend on how you feel. The will thrives on mood swings. It wants you reactive, volatile, impulsive. But ritual is unmoved. A cold shower, a daily walk, a written paragraph, a repeated phrase, something fixed, not because it brings joy, but because it proves control. 2. Voluntary hardship. Choose difficulty on purpose, not for reward, not for growth, but for armor. Cold, hunger, discomfort, confrontation. These break the illusion of safety and remind you, you can suffer and remain sovereign. Most people avoid pain until life forces it on them. You instead invite it strategically. 3. Strategic detachment. Stop narrating your life like a movie. Kill the voice that keeps asking, "What does this mean?" Or, "What's the lesson here?" That voice is the will in disguise. Not everything is a message. Sometimes it just hurts. Accept the silence. Let reality be raw. 4. Build a code, not a belief, a code. A set of principles so clear that even in doubt you act without hesitation. I do not complain. I do what is mine to do. I do not chase illusions. A personal law that cuts through chaos. The world won't hand you purpose, but it will hand you resistance. And your only chance is to meet it with form sharper than pain, colder than hope, and stronger than meaning. Now that you've seen it, the machine, the will, the lie of purpose, you can't unsee it. You've been shown what most will never face, that the world doesn't owe you meaning, and that the search for it often becomes the very thing that weakens you. This is not a message for the masses. It's a call for the few, the ones who are done chasing, the ones who are ready to stop asking for permission, from culture, from pain, from hope, and start choosing. Because once you understand that there may never be a reason, your only choice is to become one, to stop being a seeker and become a sovereign, to stop being a question mark and become a sword. Don't let this knowledge rot inside you. Comment, "I am the edge," not as a slogan, but as a declaration, a signal that you refuse to live as a ghost in a machine, that you will act without promise, endure without applause, and hold your form when the world shakes. Remember this: knowledge without action is cowardice. Awareness without commitment is just aesthetic. This isn't about becoming fearless. It's about acting anyway. It's about rejecting the soft story of finding your path and realizing the truth. In a world without purpose, you are the blade that cuts meaning into existence. The world doesn't need more dreamers. It needs those willing to stand at the edge of the abyss and not flinch.